The Chosen. By this beautiful music from our composers, Dan and Matt. So tonight is really, really special. So are you ready?
And so it's time. Let's roll. My name is Dan Haseltine, and I'm one of the composers for The Chosen.
I'm Matt Nelson. That's about the most lively response that we've ever had from that intro video. Well, the first time we did it, I wasn't sure if everyone in the room was going to get the joke, because we're the Methodist church. I'm not going to start them off now.
It's true.
Thank you for getting it.
I'm kind of partial to the Top Gun one. We were talking to some folks back there, and we did a lot of that during the first season when we were actually working on that finale scene. We kept sending Dallas clips like that.
We got like a whole folder full of
there are so many, and we got a text message from him back at one point after maybe we had sent him 7 or 8 different versions of it, and it was just the question, you guys have time for this? We said yes. It's great to be here. It's great to see you all here. They said we were the first thing that was going to happen where people were actually going to be speaking to you. So if you want your money back, there's nothing we can do about that. We're the composers. What we do, if there's music in the show, in any level of musical performance, song being sung by a character, noise of some sort, coming out of an instrument, be it a horn or a drum, we get to create that for the show. And we love it. It's been a really, really fun job. It's been just an incredible experience. I don't think anybody knew what would happen with the show, how much it would resonate with people, and Matt and I, we didn't really know what we were doing. Still don't, which is amazing that we're up in front of you tonight. But we thought tonight we would take you through a scene and show you a little bit about how we create music for The Chosen.
I can't believe that I'm in a room with this many people at a conference with more people than this. So we scored the first half of season 1 in the living room of my 1-bedroom condo.
Matt, tell them where we've scored the first couple scenes of season 5.
We've upgraded from a 1-bedroom condo living room to basically a single-car garage-sized studio that's still attached to my house. Yeah. However, it sounds like we're going to be moving on out here pretty soon. It's a bigger, it's probably going to ruin it.
It's a deluxe apartment in the sky, right? No. Well, so we thought we would do something because we know this conference is it's supposed to be light and kind of exciting and encouraging. We thought we would pick a scene to address tonight, and that would be we're going to take you on the experience of. Has everybody seen season 4? All caught up?
If you haven't seen all of season 4, you may want to step out and snack for a while, because there's a big spoiler.
We're going to musically kill one of the characters that we know and loved in the show. We want to talk to you tonight about the musical scene of Raymond. Right?
Come on!
How was the chicken?
All right. We're gonna have a little exposure therapy together.
Yes.
Now, it's a little different because what you've all seen is the final scene, which had special effects in it, which was color timed, which had all of the final dialogue, which had mixed music. So you're gonna see under the hood what we receive when we're scoring a scene like that. So the video that you're going to see is what we see, which doesn't have all that stuff. It's still pretty heart-wrenching.
Yes.
But imagine how many times, I've never worked on a horror movie before, but imagine how many times we were trying to calculate how many times we had to watch the entire scene as we scored it and worked on it. So it was, and it's still, even after, credit to the other filmmakers and the writers, and the actors, that the scene still, we'd seen it a million times by the time it came out, and it's still, I'm sure that I still cry.
We still hate it. So,
you want to start walking through?
let's start walking through. So, first of all, one of the things we should mention, and we're going to try to get through this quickly because we don't have a lot of time, and it's a very long scene. This is one of, I think it's the second longest piece of music that we've had to write for the series. This musical piece comes in at about 14 minutes and 30 seconds long. And so it's a very long piece. But we should sort of mention that at the very, the broad spectrum of what we do with music, the music's role in the show is really to be kind of the subconscious of the story. It is the thing that it provides the signposts, emotional signposts. The music is kind of there to give you a hint of where the story might be going. It's not necessarily supposed to be the thing that tells you how to feel, but sometimes it can provide little keys that can give you the direction of the scene. And sometimes we get it really right. Other times we've scored entire scenes where we've made it a very big, large, dramatic thing, and we'll send it off to Dallas, and he'll respond back and say, "Hey, you guys didn't see the joke or hear the joke in there?" And we're like, "Oh, no, that's supposed to be a funny scene." Okay, and we'll start over. But the music is meant to be an assistant, a help in understanding the depth of what's happening on the screen. So that's the role we play.
Yeah, so if we're looking at a scene like this,
Yes.
tell us what we do first.
So the first thing we have to do when we get a scene when we do what's called a spotting session, and that's just identifying where music is supposed to happen.
Find the spots.
Yeah. So find the spots. There you go. It's very technical. Most of you will forget that term. Not know what it means by the end of the night, but we're professionals. Spotting. So that's what we do. So the first thing that you have to do is we watch the episode and we figure out, okay, it feels like music is supposed to be here in this section. And then from there, the next piece is to, there's sort of three terms that we use. Context, shape, and tempo. Those are sort of the pieces. So you identify where music is supposed to go, and then we have to figure out what kind of music, what are the instruments, is it a fast-paced scene, what are the emotional pieces in it, and start making choices around there based off of what we're seeing. And Matt likes to quote this idea of a painting.
Yeah,
right?
A painting. I took some like studio art classes when I was in high school, and is anybody like artists, visual artists, painters, even if, I mean, you don't have to be doing it for a living. Who does? Yeah, so I was in an art class in high school, and I remember the teacher, we were working on charcoal drawings of scenery, like a bowl of fruit in a glass, and we had the lights way down low. So we're using white charcoal on black paper. And the teacher said, in order to capture this accurately and realistically, you have to draw what you see. You don't draw what you know is there. I know that there's a glass bottle there. I know that there's a bowl of fruit over here. I know what a bottle looks like, but if I just put that down on the paper, it's not going to look as realistic as I think it will look. So I have to draw what I see. And that's, in a sense, in a musical way, that's what we're doing when we score a scene, especially in a show like The Chosen, because all of these stories are larger than life. And the scene with Nicodemus and Jesus on the rooftop where they're, I mean, like, it's an amazing scene, and it's well acted, and it's also one of the biggest ideas and lines of dialogue or quotes that's maybe the most famous in the world. So that's what we know is there. So what we have to do is force ourselves to just draw what we see and score what we're seeing in front of us, which was two guys having an intimate conversation at a table on the roof on a beautiful evening. And that seems to keep us in the right scale instead of blowing everything up larger than life. Because the whole beauty of the show is that it takes all of these big ideas and all this rich history, this 2,000-year history that we have, and pulls it all down into these small relationships. And it's about the day-to-day conversations that happen between the disciples and themselves and Jesus and Peter's job, or Simon Peter's job as a fisherman, and Matthew's job, and it's all exactly what we do every day. So it feels like that's the best way that's the magic of the show, that it connects. I think it connects with us on that level.
Yeah. So back to these terms, context and tempo and shape. I feel like I'm doing like a junior high report on like, let me check my notes.
That's the story jacket for it.
And it's a bit like this. So, yeah. So context.
That's how we joke.
So context, the first thing we have to look at is, okay, who's in the scene? Which characters? Where are they? And really all the question terms, right? What is the actual action taking place? So not what do we know about it, but what is the actual specific action that's happening? And then why is it happening is sort of an additional question that we have to sort of ask, like, what is this meant to do in the story? Like, how is this meant to pull us forward in the story or push us along? Or how is it meant to, like, give us a pause or breath? And so once we figure those things out, then we can kind of move on from context to tempo. And tempo's like actually one of the first things we get to do where we're actually looking at the scene and going, all right, within the scope of where we've said we want music here, every scene that we score, well, really every scene, what we found is it has a tempo to it. It has sort of a cadence, the way people talk, how they move, the way the camera edits fall into place. Like you can sit and watch a scene and you can kind of find what the tempo is of the scene. It's like a heartbeat, the heartbeat of a scene. And so we identify that. We try to get as close to that. And most of the time, Matt and I are like, we're doing this independently of each other, but we sort of come to the same, roughly the same tempo all the time for these scenes. And so it's fascinating to have learned that. It's not something I knew before I started working on the show. And so that's the next piece we do. We figure out what the tempo is. And then after that, we have to find the shape. And what the shape is really just how big does the scene need to get? How dramatic is it? Or how small does the scene need to be? And, as we're trying to keep the show in a space where it feels authentic, a friend of mine used to always tell me that there's a quote from a book called The Moviegoer. And in the story, the main character says, bad books lie. And they lie most of all about the human condition. And he goes on to describe how when we're reading a story or we're watching a movie, the moment that we usually tune out usually happens when something happens in the story where a character reacts to something or does something that doesn't feel true. You know, they respond in a way that is not really human, like the way we would respond to it. And all of a sudden we think, oh, they're lying to me. And we sort of subconsciously shut it off. We just say, you know what, I don't trust this anymore. So part of what we get to do is make sure that what's happening on the screen is even more trustworthy. Now, it's not that hard for us to do because the actors in the show, the story writers, like, they take a lot of time to make sure that they're not lying to us. The story they're telling is a great one, and the actors perform amazingly, so much so that oftentimes Matt and I just sort of step away from scenes. One of the things you'll notice about The Chosen as opposed to other shows is that it's fairly minimalist in terms of how many music moments there are, and a lot of that is because the acting performances don't need the help. They're great. So, but in that same context, we get to kind of provide that authenticity, and so that's part of the shape, making sure that we're not making the scene too large and dramatic, not making it too overly sentimental, not adding in what we think we know about something, rather just scoring what's actually happening. All of that is part of that.
With this scene too, we knew what was going to happen. So to try to restrain ourselves and keep from unintentionally giving away you ever watch a TV show and you know what's going to happen as soon as, they're buttering me up for something. So actually the entirety of season 4 was like that up until this point, because there's, in the first couple episodes, there are these sweet moments with Thomas and Ramo. They're out having a picnic and he's, picking out a gift for her, and there's all this, and so
Those are the first Apple Watch. Is that what happened?
very first. So there are these like two things that we were trying to balance. On one side, her death was going to be like that much more terrorizing if we could create more contrast, so there's more beauty before she dies, and that way the contrast between the two emotions is much greater.
She said really unfair things. Certainly a very mean thing that we do.
I know Dallas does sometimes call it emotional terrorism because it sort of is that, but it's done with good heart, with good intentions, trying to bring you closer to the story.
Yeah, so those are our parameters, right? And we kind of work through that, and then we start picking instruments.
Yep.
And Matt was just talking about themes and different instruments for different characters. Did you want to tell them a little bit about that?
Sure.
Should we keep it a secret?
Should we talk about themes?
There are themes.
Well, the first
20.
Yeah, we guesstimated we probably have about 20 character themes or themes for various things. Sometimes there's I love to talk about the example of Star Wars, because the tune from Star Wars that everybody knows, the main titles and all that, I think was meant to be Luke Skywalker's theme, and then over time it sort of just morphed into being, no, this is just the theme of the whole thing. And it was the same with in the scene where Obi-Wan Kenobi's killed by Darth Vader. Right after that, it's heart-wrenching. The music that plays after Obi-Wan dies is Leia's theme. Which is sort of like, this doesn't make any cognitive sense to me, because yes, Leia's there, but I'm not sure what she has to do.
Well, it's sort of her fault, right? She's the one who called him out of retirement.
I guess that's kind of true.
Maybe it was,
She
hey,
did
Leia,
say that
look what you did.
her only hope.
But I don't know.
But sometimes these themes start with association to one person or one geographical location or one action sort of idea, and then they sort of take on a life of their own and start encompassing other things, and they are just their own sort of life forms. That's the way I think of them.
Yeah. And so we have around 20 different themes that have made their way in for different characters. Some are just a noise or sound or percussion rhythm. Some are actual instruments, and some are actual musical melodies. And then what we also kind of tallied, that we have about 75 different instruments that make up the full palette of The Chosen, which Matt plays almost all of those. So,
Yeah, it sounds like that. Of course, we never use all of them at the same time.
so that's how we basically then take the scene. We go, okay, we figured out where music has to happen, what's happening in the scene, why it matters, and what the tempo is, and we've now figured out also the shape of it, how big it needs to be or how small, and now what are the instruments we need to use, and then we get to work, and then we start building a scene. Would you like to start going through this scene with us? We didn't want to not talk a lot because I know you're so used to hearing people, well, one person talk a lot. I don't know who that is. Somebody told me to say that.
What you're looking at here is a program called Pro Tools, which is a digital audio workstation. And it just looks like a bunch of blobs on the screen, and there's a grid. And the grid is set up to align with the time code of the picture file that we have here, the video. And we thought we would highlight a few moments in this cue, which is about 14 and a half minutes long. So we're going to jump around. We're going to jump around a little bit and solo some sounds and talk a little bit about some key moments. And then when we're finished with that, we'll watch the entire scene through together. And we may talk over it a little bit. But as we're going through these sounds, see what sticks to your, what do you say?
Well, I have it highlighted here what we were going to ask them to do, but you don't have to read it off the notes because you're able to improv. I'm just saying. It's not what I wrote.
See which of these sounds, as we're talking about it, they might be things that you haven't noticed before, but don't try to burn your brain out on overtime searching for things don't go looking for things, but see what you notice. See what you notice here, and then when we watch the finished scene all together, see if you can notice those same things again. Where do you want to start?
Okay, let's start at so the main action right here is Jesus is, well, he's picking a fight.
Yep.
With the Pharisees. He's, creating some tension, and there's some restlessness in a crowd. And so we start with these ideas of,
I want to,
it's the sound of picking a fight.
I want to play just a little bit of this with dialogue only, so that you can get a sense for the kind of tempo and pacing that their conversation is going at. And I think what you'll notice, which is what we noticed, is that not fast. They're not rapid fire, throwing things back and forth at each other. But take a listen to this.
That inside is full of greed and wickedness. Fools! Did not he who made the outside make the inside also? But guilt is all of those things that are within, and behold, everything is clean.
So you say giving alms is more important than being...
Right, so it's kind of the way the shots are happening. We're hearing them argue, and then it goes to the crowd. There's not really anything happening in the crowd. It's just people sort of being in a crowd and looking a little uncomfortable. No one's getting hurt, at least not yet. We're just in a crowd. Okay, so the rest of it, we're gonna, as we listen through this, I'm gonna play all this stuff with just music only, so we're not worrying about it.
You don't have to hear Jesus speak.
We don't have to, yeah, we don't have to hear Jesus.
Who wants to hear Jesus speak? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Of course we want Jesus to speak. But not
Okay, yeah, you want this person. You want to set up our first,
Yes, so this is the first thing, so the way we scored it, I'm like, well, maybe some percussion that kind of punctuates it, a few random cello plucks. What we're trying to get at is some of this restlessness. So how do we create that musically, or support it musically? And so there's this sort of ambiguous lap steel drone also that's part of it that starts to make us feel a little uncomfortable, a little unsettled. This is why we get paid the big bucks.
I think about just a couple of drum hits every now and then.
Yeah.
It's pretty, it's a pretty subtle thing.
We are grateful that you buy the soundtrack.
Just let me find where that lap steel enters here. Yeah. So that texture kind of goes on this percussion thing. All right, I have to geek out for 1 second about this. This guy. Sort of windy sound. So it's called a motion drum. And it's got like a head on either side. It actually looks a lot.
It's close to this, but
Yep.
so similar to this, but it's got a head on both sides, and inside it has some metal beads and magic.
Well, what you're supposed to do with the drum is it's like having a little shaker inside of the drum, so as you can get this sort of rhythmic shaker sound. But my partner likes to play everything wrong and experiment until it's one of his gifts. Experiment until he finds something that's captivating to him and interesting. So he was sitting with the drum and he just started rocking it back and forth. So all the beads are on the bottom of the surface and it's making this really cool, wispy noise. It's creepy and interesting and not quite identifiable. Okay, that's my geek out moment on that.
Thank you. Yeah. Should we move on to the next action point? Oh yeah, let's listen to just so as it builds. Now remember, this is a 15-minute long sequence of music, and so we can't start in with all of this great lush music or make it very dense, because then we'll have nowhere to go later.
It's a long way to go.
So it's like, if everything is loud, then nothing is loud. To sort of give it contrast, we have to start small.
In a 14-minute piece of music, if you build too fast, then there's nowhere to go. But we also do have to feel like we're building, but it's just over the course of 14 minutes, 30 seconds or whatever. This lap steel sound?
Yeah.
This is a sound that's been, you had the idea to bring in this sound because it's Southern, it's Delta blues, it's, really that's where it comes from, is down home blues. And it seems to complement this other sort of weird Middle Eastern thing really well. So that's with a bar just on a little lap steel, and I'm not even touching the thing with my right hand. I'm just rocking this little bar back and forth. So it's barely vibrating the string, but it creates this really neat drone underneath without taking up too much space.
So now our next action point is, so now we're in, the tension is starting to build. You can tell the crowd is a little restless. And so Jesus is getting more agitated and confident in what he's saying in his confrontation. And then it shifts to in Quintus's office. And so our part of what we had to do was keep the tension, knowing that this is the scene going on everywhere, we're seeing, and then find a way to connect it. So then we added in mandolin.
Let me solo this mandolin for you so you can hear what it sounds like. It's an instrument that appears all over the score. It's like a little bluegrass mandolin, except it's an octave lower, so it doesn't sound like bluegrass. It sounds more like, where does this come from? And then in context, there's actually not a lot going on except we pulled everything back to the mandolin basically. There's a couple of cello notes in there. Because we've now gone from a big space where we're building some sound down into a little small space in Quintus's office. So to keep it all big like that would feel weird. We can probably let this, we can continue.
Yeah, because the next thing is, so Jesus kind of drops a bit of he drops the mic on this next bit where he basically says he's sort of here for division, which any of us math people find we can appreciate it, but if you're not a math person, then tough crowd. So we have to, occasionally Jesus says something and it's kind of important. So we want to make sure we leave room for it. And so this was one of those moments where we empty all the sound out and then allow Jesus' line to come through. And then we kind of keep moving and build it even more.
If any of you are good lip readers, very sense of vision. You stay out there, there's a little joke after that.
Now you can hear the rhythm starts to kind of become more cyclical. Whereas before it was very kind of random, now it's starting to take on a concrete shape. That's one way we can kind of keep building tension.
I love this. There's a little sound. Speaking of character themes, that we found this really great percussion rhythm for Atticus, and it plays every time he's on screen almost. And so I love the piece so much. But by itself, I wanted you to hear what it sounds like.
Oh, please. How you doing out there? Is anybody finding this interesting at all?
Yeah, there it is. It just sounds like he's up to something. All the time. Wonderful.
So we're moving on to, so this is where we start to get more low end, where the bass tones and stuff start to come in a little bit here. Because now Quintus shows up on the street. And so things are getting,
Yeah,
Just gotta
we've got like a big escalation point, because when Clintus shows up, and he's already been ticked off the whole episode.
Yeah, we've been building up, if you remember, we're building up to Quintus kind of losing his mind. Yeah.
Another one for Ruby, please.
Yes.
So you're going to see it, you're going to hear a lot of her tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow morning. So from there, let's see, we go from there, and now
we basically have.
This was the last. We're in a theme park.
We're in a theme park now.
This was the last click of the roller coaster. Okay, before we start descending and everything starts to go a little crazy. Yeah.
Okay. There's something really fun that happens that I have to deep dive you on for a second. When we play the sound for you by itself, and then I'm going to play it for you what it actually is. It sounds like a brass section or something, but it's not. It's a bunch of shofars. Let me show you what we did to them. Okay, so just for funsies, I pulled in the original tracks so that you can hear what they sound like with nothing else. So hang on one second.
This is what we have to endure. If you want your money back, remember, we can't do anything for you.
Okay, here's the shofars by themselves.
Someone stopped me earlier in the hall and they were, are you guys going to make ringtones?
Shofar ringtones only. When I was telling Dan about this idea, he was into it because he's always into experimentation. But to have to sit through, my mom sometimes is like, I just want to come watch you guys work, and I'm like, it's a lot of you won't know what we're doing here for another 15 or 20 minutes. I'm going to blow a few shofars, and then we're going to treat them and pitch shift them and do some other things to them, and then it's going to sound cool. But most of this process is going to be boring.
That's true. That's why we show up every day for this work, because it's creative and we get to be curious and figure out new sounds.
Okay, we can move on.
Okay, so now the roller coaster begins, and at this point you'll hear you'll just hear the instrumentation get bigger. You'll hear the percussion become more complex. We are trying to match the energy of the crowd at this point and try to connect with that, and so we all feel like, okay, we're a little bit out of control right now.
So there's between, say that again, I'm not sure if everyone.
Oh yeah, so when we start in at that part where it feels pretty large and pretty dense, we still now have 2 minutes before we even get to Rama being stabbed. And so we still have a long time, like almost a whole pop song's worth of time, that we have to still pace ourselves for that moment. So yeah, so
we have to maintain the energy, but also escalate it at the right pace. We got like 2 whole minutes before.
Yeah. But then after those 2 minutes are finished,
yes,
everything slows down.
Yes. Okay, so let's see here. And here's about where it builds up. Okay, trigger warning. We're about to see the thing. So it kind of goes from, the bottom kind of just falls out from under it. There are a lot of big moments that that need to be accented in some way by the music. And sometimes the best way to accent a thing, I've heard some composers call it a reverse accent. So you build up a bunch of stuff, and then at the moment of a thing happening, you pull the music out. Go, whoa! Did anybody see Oppenheimer? Yeah, there's a stellar example of that in Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
So there's no real big low-end hit. Instead, what we have are these harps.
Yeah.
Playing the chord progression from Thomas and Rama's theme, which first appears during the wedding sequence in season 1. Just when we're first introduced to them. And so we've continued all kinds of variations of that theme anytime we see Thomas and Rama. And so it's the right thing to do. So we put it in these gosh, I was going to say stabbing harps.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It was meant to feel a little startling. Those harp sounds were meant to to be abrupt. Because everything drops out and empties out, the motion we're feeling is confusion, fear. We've sort of begun this small section of time where now we're observing everyone going through the stages of grief. And we'll see that just in a moment with Thomas, where he just literally goes through all the stages of grief, bargaining, and blame, and fear, and and it's, so we figured out we had to score that differently. So the next bit, after all that happens, we should mention that the scene itself, so we bring in the singing bowl, and we bring in these specific drum hits that have carried on to be used in all of the funeral scenes surrounding Raymond moving forward. And then, but our tempo changes. Our tempo moves from the original tempo of the scene was at 81 beats per minute, and then it immediately drops to 59 beats per minute, which is roughly the resting heart rate of an adult. Somewhere around that, yeah. So,
Well, we bring this right around the time that it's sort of right as she gets stabbed. You probably recognize this sound. Does anybody have a singing bowl at home? You guys have these things? Am I the only weirdo with the singing bowls? It's a singing bowl.
Oh, yeah?
It's like a metal bowl. They have crystal bowls as well.
security, there are people here who believe that their dishes are.
And
Could you,
and they resonate a lot. You hold it in your hand, or you have it on a little pad or something, and go around the outside of it with a mallet, and it resonates. And they're really interesting sounding things. But this is the one that it comes in right as she's stabbed. It's a really distinctive sound.
can anybody tell me what other scene they might have heard that in that was fairly prominent?
Say that again.
Does anybody, can anyone yell out the other scene that instrument was used?
Oh yes.
Yes.
Walking on water.
Walking on water.
Scene. Yeah. The water. Yeah. We should have done that scene.
Oh,
Actually,
that is a fun scene to
the
do.
funniest thing about that scene is that it'd probably be somewhat boring to talk about all the layers that happen in it, because it's mostly resonating metal and noise.
Yeah. And a giant blue screen.
And
In the version that we get.
And a lot of
Imagine.
other production noise.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going on to where she takes her last breath. Is that what?
Yeah, so she takes her last breath.
So we've had constant music now for how many minutes?
This was, I think it was 14 minutes. Almost.
Something like that? Yeah, that seems right.
Yeah.
So up until now, there's been constant music. Something's happening constantly. So reverse that sense. So when she takes her last breath, we're sort of left to the singing bowl, and I think that is the only thing that's happening in this last little bit. And then as she takes her last breath, it slowly dies out. So the silence is, after you're used to hearing that much music and all this chaos and craziness, and then this strange, annoying, ringing, singing bowl, and then it dies, and then there's silence, it just feels terrifying.
Feels like your heart is caving in. Everything is just, yeah.
Outstanding.
Yes. Thank you. Now, it ain't over yet.
We're not done scoring people's bets, so.
Yeah, so we
Stick around.
from that into one kind of final sequence.
Yes, and here we did,
Thomas's.
yeah, Thomas and Rayma's theme that happens in some cellos. And I want to say, it comes in right here. So here's these cellos that come in. It's just a few seconds later. There's that lap steel coming in, real gentle. You just give it a little bit of a bed to sit in. We usually try to dovetail these phrases in between the dialogue spots so it's not stepping on anybody.
The acting performance, this scene is stunning.
Okay, yeah, so that's...
Let's not watch any more of that. There you go.
Well, but for extra, probably the last thing to mention about this scene is its conclusion, and that Dallas said, hey, we probably need to do something, this is significant for the show, so we should not do our normal end credits, we should do something else. And what we decided would be cool was a whole closing credits of just singing bowl. So it's you know, there's this final cadence here in the cellos. And almost immediately, this little singing bowl comes creeping back in, and then it just goes through the whole end credits. We put it in, and I thought, gosh, this is awful. I would not want to watch this thing. But it fits, right? It's worked.
Yeah.
I think that about gets us through that scene.
That's pretty much it.
I could talk about this stuff all day. Thank you for listening to all of our geeking out and wondering. And I think we're going to do a few minutes of Q&A. Is that correct? Is Heather around somewhere?
Yeah, I think we could, why don't we do that, because I know we do want to show you the finished scene again, all put together, but I thought maybe we could take some questions first.
I'm Teresa, and I'm from Kentucky, and I'd just like to know your background in education and how you came about God calling you to do this.
What was our education and how did God called us to do this? Dallas called me to do it. And I know on the show he's credited as the creator.
You're on your own, buddy.
Thanks for letting me be a part of the show for the last few seasons. Well, movies. I went to a lot of movies as a kid. I'm a child of the 80s. So, yeah. spent a lot of time enjoying and immersing myself in movies. And yeah, I went to school for music, didn't finish, played in a band, 25 years. Love music, love the way it intersects with film and with images and storytelling, and yeah, it's something I've always wanted to do, just music. Yeah.
I was a music school kid. My parents were public school music educators. And then my mom taught at a Catholic school for a little while too, in my late childhood. But so I grew up around marching bands, and I wound up being the first string player in the family when I got to when I got to the public school orchestra age to start playing an instrument. I don't even really remember picking a cello, but I do remember thinking that I did not want to play violin, and I still can't play violin. and then followed through music school and all that stuff.
More. I'm coming to you next. You raised it so high. I'm just
Will Yoho from Akron, Ohio. What is the...
woohoo!
Oh, wait! So what is the weirdest instrument / whatever you do that you've used?
I had a whole story about this, actually.
That's a great question.
For this one scene, we needed the sound of like a slap, but there's a particular sound that comes from a baby's bottom, and so we kept doing this scene where we had to do it, but the reality was that every time we sent it to Dallas, he'd be like, it needs to be bigger, it needs to be more, so we kept bringing more babies in, no, I'm joking, that didn't happen.
Conditions I have to work under.
No, the strangest instrument, I don't know, we've used some different, yeah.
Oh, I know what one of the strangest instruments is. It's it's called a monkey noodle. You know what a monkey noodle is?
Oh, yeah.
It's like a fidget thing for kids. It's just a little stretchy, whatever. It's great for us people who have a hard time focusing in class and that kind of thing. But I figured out that if I stretched it between two fingers and I plucked it, if I put it really close to my ear, it makes a sound, and it's a really low frequency, strange thing, and so we recorded that.
Yeah.
The only other thing recently would be a fun new instrument. It's going to debut in season 5, and it's called the Cart of Death, and it's literally like I'm looking for a visual example, but I don't see one. It's like a cart that you would put a bunch of stuff on and wheel down for, like a utility cart. So, but this particular one, no one had greased these wheels in maybe ever, and it resonated at a pitch, and it sounds so creepy and weird, and so I recorded it with my phone, and I cleaned up the audio, and then I pitch shifted it all over the keyboard so I could play it like at any pitch, and it's wild. So you might hear it in season 5.
Yeah,
That's a weird.
There's always like every once in a while, like one of us will take an afternoon and we'll go over to like Home Depot or someplace, and we'll just start tapping on things and moving things around and hitting things with other things to figure out, oh, that makes an interesting sound. And so you walk up to the counter with all of this stuff, and they're like, what are you working on? Because it'll be like a tub and then like just pieces that would never go together for anything. But yeah, so I mean, that's how we get some of our noises, just like odds and ends.
All right, I think we have time for 2 more. We'll run over here.
Hi, my name is Marta Orgemil from Pennsylvania. I'm here with my husband Herb. Thank you guys for what you do. I love you.
sitting next to my cousins also. I've been looking for them all night. And
There you are. Hey,
Carry on.
So, as I hear you guys talking back and forth and presenting this in a very artistic way, I mean, I see how different you are even from the way you guys dress, you know, from the way you present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you guys are different, but you are so good together, you know. Just reminding me and my husband, we're so different. I'm from Colombia and you're from here. But when you guys, as an artist, explain your heart and you put your heart into what you do, and as an artist myself, that you sometimes draw blank, like you just like, you just don't know what to do, like, or do you have it all figured out, or you just make it as you go? I mean, like when you say that you go to Home Depot, whatever, and you grab things, those are your elements for your work. But sometimes you just sit with all that stuff and you don't know what to do, and you just haven't clear where you're going.
Yep. We do have, we do hit a block sometimes. It's not super often with The Chosen. The thing about this medium that we're working in is that it's not just a blank sheet of paper in front of us. We've got this richly written, richly acted, richly, like, beautifully filmed inspiration right in front of us all the time. So if I don't feel inspired by something, there's just like, I need to spend a little more time with the scene and see what I notice. And that for me that's the medicine for feeling stuck. But we do sometimes hit a block and sometimes we don't have quite the same idea of what the scene calls for with music. Sometimes we have internal disagreements, sometimes we disagree with Dallas, and those are fun. Guys, this was supposed to be funny.
Yeah, that's true. All of that was true. Also, sometimes when we hit a block, it can also mean that, this scene doesn't need music. And we can realize and go, you know what? The story is working fine. We're trying to wedge a piece of something into it that doesn't need to be there.
Actually, speaking of the walking on water sequence, one such moment was at the end of that, with Eden coming up out of the pool, and she comes up out of the water, and I don't remember the lines exactly, but the first time we watched the sequence, it's beautiful. Yeah, there you go. Hold on, we'll go. That's right. But hearing the water reverberate in the room, and it's so beautiful. And we were saying, Dallas, this is like perfect. This doesn't need, what's the music gonna say here? It's gonna say, wow, isn't this beautiful? And it's already there.
The term is a hat on a hat.
A hat on a hat. You wouldn't wear a hat over another hat, right? Yeah.
No hats on hats. All right, we got our last question right here.
Hi, I'm Verita, and this is my husband Neil from Dallas, Texas.
Thank you for being here.
And I have a couple of questions, really short. So you're actually performing these instruments and you're recording them as you're playing them, or are any of them digital?
Yes.
Well,
I'm just holding the spotlight and making sure the fog machine is pushing on to Matt while he is playing the instruments. No.
it's probably, so technically speaking, I was a purist for a while, and then I was anti-synthesized sounds or pre-recorded instruments, and I prefer live recordings in real time when I can. Here's the thing: a sample library is an actual human playing an actual instrument. It just wasn't recorded by me in that moment. But when I record myself into my DAW and Pro Tools, I'm creating a sample of me playing. That's not actually me playing, it's just a digital sample of me playing. So there's sort of it can get real philosophical, but with The Chosen, we've gradually gone from the first season, because we were so limited, we used a lot more virtual instruments, and then little bit by little bit, once we found some sounds that we liked, one of them actually being the harmonium here, and the Tantra drones, and there's some other instruments that we, in fact, I just bought another one for this coming season that it's an instrument problem. Say what? I'm just kidding. But some of these things we found instruments that we liked from a sample library that we used maybe in a season, and then bought the actual instrument and started using that. So it's gone from the first season was we used more samples or pre-recorded samples than each season as it's gone on is much more live. I mean, we're probably at least at 90% live performances in the room.
Yeah. And when Matt says live performances in the room, what he means is in the single car garage.
Yes. Literally the room.
Yeah. Is that our time? Oh, great.
Oh, there it is. Give it up for Matt.
Should we run this scene real fast? Do we have time to do that? Let us? All right, we'll let you run the scene. Thank you so much for letting us talk about what we do and what we love. We're glad you're here. Enjoy the weekend.
Zareen, I just spoke to a man who claims you healed his blindness. Today. On Shabbat.
Is there a question coming?
I was told you put mud on his eyes. Where did you get mud knowing you're not supposed to make healing concoctions on Shabbat?
It was easy. I just spit on the dirt.
What? You touched his face with filth?
Cleanliness. That's what you're focused on?
You claim to be a rabbi, to be the son of God, and you don't honor purity laws even on the most sacred day of the week?
You Pharisees. You cleanse the outside of a cup and the dish, and then you eat and drink food that goes into a body that inside is full of greed and wickedness. You fools! Did not he who made the outside make the inside also? But give as alms those things that are within, and behold, everything is clean for you.
Are you saying giving alms is more important than being ritually clean?
I'm saying that your obsession with what is clean and unclean goes farther than God intended, and does no good for anybody but yourself.
We tithe everything so the poor can benefit, down to the smallest plants grown in our gardens.
And to that I say, woe to you Pharisees! You tithe mint and dill and cumin, measuring carefully the last speck, while neglecting what is actually important of the law. Justice and mercy and faithfulness. You blind guides, straining out an gnat while swallowing a camel. Look at these people. What have you done to help them?
We have taught them how to observe God's perfect law, while you actively defy and break and encourage others to deviate from it. All of you, this man is dangerous. He's leading you astray.
His words bring hope and healing.
His words are blasphemous, heretical.
And I say, woe to you, Pharisees, for you'll have the best seat in the synagogues and greetings in the marketplaces.
Take it back. Right now, recant your insulting words.
Oh, I am just getting started. People are getting trampled.
Please, stay calm. Stay close, but don't let anyone else in. Matthew!
Excuse me.
Matthew!
Guys,
We need to get Jesus out of here. Tell Simon it's serious.
Okay. It's Peter now. Matthew!
Dominus.
Is he?
The Pharisees have upset a peaceful gathering in the square. It started out peaceful, but now the people are protesting the Pharisees.
No. No more chaos. Where's Gaius?
He's in the square, Dominus, doing what he can. He asked me to relay a message from Cohortus Atticus.
What message?
What you do next will determine your career.
Losing control. James, please, just... See? Both of you, get over here! What? Relax. Let them pass. Move. Let them pass.
We need to make our way out.
How?
See, keep a perimeter around Jesus.
It's not gonna be easy.
Even an arm's length will help. Go. Thomas, find a door, an open gate, shop we can pass through to an alley, anything to get Jesus out. Then we'll make our plan, okay? Go.
You should go.
I'm staying with all of you.
It's not safe.
Mary, will you stay with Rema?
What do you need? Make a path for me. I got you.
Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. Nothing is covered up that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known.
Therefore, whatever you have said in the dark shall be heard in the light. And whatever you have whispered in private rooms shall be proclaimed on the housetops.
How can you claim to be the Son of God and create this division against God's anointed leaders?
Do you think I have come to give peace on earth? No. But rather, division.
We will have an opportunity to this.
I don't think we're gonna get to talk to Jesus today.
I don't think so either.
Not moved a cubit. What is it you're waiting for, Gaius?
I passed your message along. We're just waiting for orders from Putin.
Waiting for what? You are in command, Primi. Has the preacher gotten to you? Perhaps you want Quintus to take the fall for another ride. Is that it? That's it. I was wrong about you.
If I did, what would you do with me?
Rome doesn't penalize ambition, Primi, but you are taking a huge gamble. One of you won't survive this.
Why are you doing this?
Arrest Jesus.
No, Dominus.
Arrest Jesus of Nazareth, Gaius.
No.
Arrest Jesus or you will hang.
I will not.
Julius! Arrest this man for dereliction. Rest of you, arrest that man, now!
Again, I say...
Master,
Everybody,
stand. We have to go.
let's go. This way. Down here. Go. Everyone, get out of the square! That man is under arrest! Stay away! Stay back! What are you doing? Put your hands up! Judas, go! Go! It's not out! Come on, please! Come on! Come on! Where's Maggie? Where's Rema? Come on! Come on! Mary! Mary! Rema! Mary! Mary! We have to go. But Rema! You! Where did Jesus go? Where is he? Answer me! Rema! Where's Jesus? Where is he? Rema!
Thomas!
Come on, let's find the others.
Stay back! Where is he? Stop! Rema!
Somebody help! We need a doctor!
Z, get him back to the house without anyone seeing. I will wait for the others.
Bye-bye.
Rema. Rema, hold on. Hold on. You're fine, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. Rema.
Remember what I told you?
It's not over. It's not that time. Don't go, Rema. Don't, please. I can't.
Thomas, stay with him. It's all I want. It's all I...
Reba. Reba.
Heal her. Fix this.
Thomas.
You're here now, Rabbi. Please. This is a mistake.
Thomas. I'm so sorry.
Rabbi, you don't have to let this happen. Just take it back. Just take it back. She might not be dead yet. You can heal, right?
It is not her time. I love you, Thomas. He loves you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.